Yeah, for me, first of all, I never thought that I would teach. So this is a very different thing for me. And I've been at Lesley now for, oh, I guess almost 6 years, something like that. And it was never, I just never had plans on being a teacher at the university level. And so I still feel like, like this was like the job that when I got this gig, my mom was like, "Oh, now you have a real job, right?" It was like, even though I was already sort of published and living that life, and my mom was like, "Oh, but now you have a job." I'll tell you what I love about it. What I really love about it is it allows me to sort of be. It doesn't put any sort of constraints on the way that I do the things that I do in terms of disseminating information, right? So like when I would always think of what it was like to be a teacher on a university level, I was a little intimidated because I don't know if I had the academic acumen. I don't know if I have sort of like the sort of all the rhetoric and the lexicon that comes along with the academy. I don't have it because I didn't come through it in the same way that a lot of people do. I was not that person. I was not that student. I had no plans I don't even have a master's degree, let alone I never even had plans on getting one. Like you know what I mean? Like I just this has been a different experience for me. And so to be able to step into a space as my whole self and 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 work with students as me and give them the bits that I know and also learning on learning from them, because I think what happens sometimes with the way that we think of pedagogy is like the teacher is sort of giving something and the students are getting something, but it's actually more reciprocal than that. And I find it really precious and sacred that I can spend time teaching and learning from people who are wrestling with letters in the same way that I do every day of my life. I think um, I think there's much to be said about the notion that one can't truly know a thing unless they can teach it. And this has been really crystallizing for me to really kind of nail down what it is that I do and like understand it from a cellular level, because I
Hmm.
have to explain it to people who have no idea what I'm talking about. And that has been
Hmm.
a gift for me.
And I think that's just such a great observation about the idea that, in order to you, we're in a good teacher is in conversation with their students. It's not like, here is a block of information I'm giving you and you're just some passive receptacle. And I think for those of us, and I think you and I are both those people, that for those of us who genuinely love to teach, it's that conversation and the way it turns us back into having to think about what we do in relationship to what our students are doing is, I think, the best part of the job. It's just like I get to have a job in the world where I talk to smart people about books and writing all the time. I still can't believe I have this job. You know, I mean, it just seems amazing to me that I get to do the thing that I love and I get to talk about it almost every day. And that's such a gift from the universe, right? To be able to do the thing in the world that you love the most. I think the other thing that I really love about the low res environment, because I also teach at the University of Houston in a traditional environment, and I love both of them for different reasons. But at Lesley, I get to have that true connectedness mentor, because the whole thing is built on one-to-one mentorship, right? And we have these wonderful residencies where everybody gets together and we have a great community of like fun, lively, interesting people. But when I'm in my semester with my students, I get to know people deeply. And that's a real pleasure, I think, being able to be so focused on, one or two or three people at a time. There's also a lot of pleasure in the workshop environment that I'm teaching in Houston. But for mentorship, I feel like that just one-on-one vibe that you get with, or I get with my Lesley students is, and I still keep track of people, still have conversations, still texting with people that I worked with 10 years ago, because we've really gotten to know each other.
Yeah.
And that to me is the greatest pleasure of doing this job.
No, it's super cool. And I think the other thing that makes Leslie different than a lot of other places is at least, I mean, I have limited experience with other places, but what seems to be different is that I could have a student that is leaning toward um, other genres or other forms, and I have resources around me that I could tap to ask what's the best way to serve this student, because there are so many different categories that we teach, because there is, you have fiction, you have nonfiction, you have stage and screen, you have graphic novel, you have poetry, like and within those categories, right? So if you're teaching nonfiction, you have memoir, you have essays, you have, right, like you can really stratify everything, and I could and really be a true resource to somebody who's trying to find their way. Because people come in as one thing, but they might leave as something else. They might come in as a poet and may leave as a novelist, and we have the
Or
capability,
both,
or
right? They're
both.
both.
Yeah, exactly, or both, and we have the capabilities to support them along that journey, and there's something about it that I like, and I like you all, right? I like my colleagues and the people who work there, the other mentors and teachers, and being able to trust you all enough to say, like, look, there are things that I don't know, right? Like that's the other part of this. I just don't get the whole like I am a master. And no, not if you want to be good at something, you never actually master it, right? So like you're constantly trying to get better at it. And so there are moments where I had to go to a partner of mine and say, look, this student is doing is trying this out, and I don't know exactly how to guide in this particular context, but this is your lane. So can you give me a little guidance? Can you give me some notes here? Can you help me out? And
Oh
that's a
yeah.
gift, right? A community effort to make sure that we're raising up and honing brilliant, smart, talented, thoughtful, and intentional writers.